Hello, this is Dr. Carol Francis. Welcome to the Dr. Carol Francis Show, and today we're going to talk about eating disorders. That relationship with food and your body type or your body, and the idea that we should all be skinny, or what should we actually be? So today we have a number of amazing professionals with us. And the first one I'd like to introduce to you today is Darlene Manic. She's a marriage and family therapist as well as an eating disorder specialist. And because of her experiences and passion, she has been able to create what is called the Safe Harbor that really addresses the needs of individuals that are trying to recover from their eating disorder. Thank you so much for joining us, Darlene. How are you?
Thank you so much. I really am so grateful to be here.
People who are in the trap of an eating disorder, people who have never experienced this don't understand this, but people who are in the trap of an eating disorder need a safe place without judgment,
Yes.
without fearing that they're going to be looked down on. There's already enough self-judgment that takes place. So the idea that you've called this a safe harbor is not an accident, is it?
Not at all. It actually helps reduce a state of anxiety. We have a lot of folks who call us who have obsessive compulsive disorder, and of course anxiety is part of that. So Safe Harbor is a much more tranquil, homey place that we're very grateful we changed.
What I know about your staff is that there's a lot of heart. There's also a lot of experience on both sides of the process of eating disorder, both as professionals and as people who know firsthand what it's like to conquer an eating disorder. Can you talk to your own experience on that?
I started this program back in 1995, and the reason I started this program, Dr. Francis, is because I nearly died from my own eating disorder, which was a combination of bulimia and anorexia. And I had a history of compulsive eating. I used to have my head in the toilet up to 90 times a day.
Oh my goodness.
It was
amazing.
It was. I mean, they told me I would never be able to have children. We are here to thrive. And the bottom line is, I really feel that most of us suffering from any kind of disorder, any kind of addiction, come from a place of feeling like a victim. We were a victim of our childhood, we were a victim of our circumstance, and whether or not it's unconscious, Dr. Francis, it is my experience, it's the truth, and we need to go from victim to victor. And what that means is taking responsibility. The term ignorance is bliss, I think, is very true. When I had no idea about how many times I was binging and purging, or my patients have no idea, which we see all the time. And when we dig deeper, they recognize they've been in so much denial. Then the pain comes, because then I had to take responsibility for our actions. When I'm suffering, like I was suffering, or when our patients are suffering, they are in a victim state of mentality. There's no hope. When you're struggling, then you have a sense of responsibility, and there's movement and hope and recovery through that.
You want to take the people that come off the street and say, look, you need to find some source inside of you that's bigger than who you are. Is that the beginning stages, or are there other beginning stages?
Everyone picks up the phone for a reason. I think people pick up the phone because they know they've been living an untruth, a lie. I like the term untruth, because a lie is they already have enough shame. And they're off purpose. Everybody has a purpose. When they pick up the phone, they recognize the toilet is no longer their higher power. The scales can no longer be their higher power. So they're at a wonderful place of feeling of hopelessness. Yet there's a spark that makes them pick up the phone. That's the spark that, to me, determines the fact that we are meant to thrive on this planet.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll be back. We're back with Darlene Manic. I have a lot of questions to ask you because you see so many people at different phases in dealing with their eating complications. And therefore you have to be tremendously flexible and knowledgeable about the diversity that's going to come on your door. What are the different types of diversity you're most conscious of?
We have several different packages of eating disorders. Compulsive overeaters, generally obese folks. When I say obese, they can be from 50 pounds overweight to 400 pounds overweight. We deal with pre and post bariatric surgery patients. Bulimia, those who binge and purge through exercising or purge through vomiting or laxative abuse. We have those, and then we have anorexics who restrict food to the point of near death or sometimes death, and those are obviously the most serious, because in order to deal with the underlying emotional issues, Dr. Francis, we first have to make sure they're safe, and we have a very intensive, comprehensive team that has to work together to make sure we keep the patients low at risk. And the other folks that we deal with are teenagers. They're vulnerable as it is, and they have hormone changes, etc. When I have a teenager that comes in with a mother, the first thing I will do is ask the mom, is it okay if Mary is honest with you and shares with you anything, even if she's afraid it might hurt your feelings? And mom will say, of course. And then Mary will sometimes roll her eyes. And then we will look at that and say, Mary, you just rolled your eyes. What does that mean? She'll say nothing. Oh, I don't believe it means nothing. And mom will look at Mary and she'll go, what's wrong? She goes, well, Mom, you're really not being honest. And so what do you mean? And that's the beginning of the foundation. And we would talk about the discrepancy there. So that is a fundamental piece of hearing, because if the daughter, and I don't care if she's a teenager, a 22-year-old, a 50-year-old, or an 80-year-old, has the opportunity to communicate her experiences with mom, even if they're different, and a lot of times they are with mom, at least their feelings are validated. And I'll tell you, that has been, in my experience of 20 years dealing with eating disorders, the single most powerful tool that has decreased the symptoms, whether it's binging and purging, compulsive eating, or restricting, up to 50% within the first couple weeks.
Fascinating. The power that parents have over their children's well-being in terms of their self-esteem, their sense of worth, their sense of validation is enormous. Finish the sentence. If our parents are too
appearance oriented,
and if our parents are too judgmental,
then we become highly judgmental of ourselves. Food is extremely symbolic, culturally, emotionally, economically, going forward into our lives.
Do you ever do any exercises with people that teach them how to be comfortable with imperfections?
Well, one of the things we do is we do a meal outing, and that's great because we have folks who are mostly isolated. We have the anorexics who don't want to eat at all. We have the compulsive overeaters who are very secretive, especially the bulimics also, so they get to sit with peers. It's all in love. They all know they're there for recovery, even though their symptoms look different. So they'll look out, they'll watch each other's foods, and eventually the breakdown will happen when they recognize that they're all mirrors of themselves, of each other, whether they're 400 pounds or 40 pounds. And that's the beginning of the healing, which is a release of the perfectionism. One more thing on perfectionism.
Please.
It is the idea of our ego that is perfectionistic. I believe truly the fact that we are something, we are important, we are powerful by how we look or what our job is, how much money. In my experience, the only true healing is that of our higher power, higher wisdom, of God, the thing that makes the sun come up and the moon go up. It's not me. When that ego gets in my way, I'm easing out God and I'm increasing my ego. That is the true measure of daily recovery, recognizing it's not about me, it's about being of service to the world and focusing on that as our main purpose.
And that explains a lot why your staff has such heart with everyone they serve. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.